AAA developers are absolutely outraged at this point by Baldur's Gate 3. It's gotten so far that they are blaming sites like IGN for not putting a bad score on the game. That's how pissed they are.
Baldur's Gate 3 has made its mark on this video game industry. This is a game that not a lot of people were talking about entering into 2023, but now has all eyes on this entire industry, from gamers to developers, and it has been the topic of discussion the last couple of weeks. And some of that has been controversial, especially in regards to what Baldur's Gate 3 represents for this industry moving forward. Does it set a new standard? Does it not set a new standard? That has been the...
I hope it sets a new standard, a new minimum standard that every game should aspire to get to. It doesn't matter if you're AAA or indie development. If you're indie development, no one's going to ask you to deliver something that, 400 devs worked on for multiple years. But if you're AAA, I don't think you have any excuses for delivering anything even less than this, because you have 10 times the resources Baldur's Gate 3 had for its development. You have no excuse, and I hope people will keep you accountable for shitty games if you produce them in the future.
Conversation lately. And if you look at Metacritic right now, this is the best reviewed game of the year, a 97 out of 100, 43 critic reviews, and the user score is pretty much right on point too, a 9.2. Best reviewed game of the year. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is the closest. I think that's at a 96, but this very much could be the game of the year award winner at all of the game shows later on this year.
It might be, because these game awards are always decided by just the most popular game. If something's really popular, they're gonna nominate it, and it's probably gonna win. Because, they need to get eyes, and, they can't not nominate, really, really popular games because of that.
And all of the reviews that are coming about right now from the main outlets, it's been extremely positive. IGN saying not everything needs to be nearly as big as and ambitious or even as dense as Baldur's Gate 3. But if I had to point to one paragon that I would like everyone else making CRPGs to take inspiration from, this is absolutely it. And they gave it a 10 out of 10.
Nice.
PC Gamer giving it the highest review rating that they've ever given, I think, in the last 15 or so years, a 97 out of 100.
Nice.
Them calling it the new pinnacle of the genre. We even saw Larian's founder, Sven Vink, responding to this review saying, holy shit. And he also added, so proud of my team. None of us can believe this is really happening, but the greatest thing about all of this is that we can continue to make games like this. Yes, they are risky and ambitious, and stuff sometimes goes wrong, but it's
good for them. Good for them for actually trying and developing something that they themselves would want to play and would like to play. And it's succeeding because it deserves to succeed. Good things deserve praise. Bad things, pretty much the rest of the gaming industry at this point, deserve beatings. Pretty much point and that's it.
It's what the studio was created for. Baldur's Gate 3's reception shows there's room for this type of game. I hope we get many more like it, and that's an opinion I think all of us have. Now, we also saw that another developer for Baldur's Gate 3 saying, Mom, oh, that's nice, honey. Her responding to the review score for Baldur's Gate 3, saying, we're now the best computer game of all time. Her mom saying, great. So it's just funny. It's awesome seeing Larian celebrating their success here, because this is a studio that had a lot riding on the success of this game. It could have gone wrong, and they could have gone bankrupt. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's not like they had the funding, the backing of a major publisher. They didn't. This was a risky venture, and it worked out, and now all eyes will be on them moving forward with whatever they have planned for the future. Now, as we've been talking about, Baldur's Gate 3 did hit over 800,000 concurrent players on Steam. It actually increased over the last couple of days to 875,000 it peaked at. I think the only other game this year that was a little higher in terms of single player was Hogwarts Legacy. Harry Potter IP, that's kind of a given, but something like Baldur's Gate, that's just crazy how massive this is blown up to be. But again, the conversation surrounding this game has gotten very, I wouldn't say it's been toxic, but it has definitely been very divisive online. It all started with...
calling it just divisive is a little bit of an understatement, I feel like, at this point. It is the most divisive thing that we currently have, and it's been going on for weeks at this point, honestly. And half of this is only because the AAA gaming industry, losers, developers, literal talentless hacks, couldn't just take the L. No. They needed to start crying and saying, oh, the game's not actually that good. Oh, it's not actually, you can't expect us to do it. If they didn't do this, I think the game would see way less success, honestly. But it's the fact that these literal snakes decided to do what they did that just pushed Baldur's Gate's success even further.
With this specific article coming from Game World Observer. Why devs consider Baldur's Gate 3 anomaly, not new standard for RPG genre. It's Rockstar level nonsense.
Classic L take.
Now, this piece because of an indie developer, and they shared their opinion. We've talked about this endlessly. I'm not going to go through the tweets, but they talked about Larian's history, how they've blown up, and how this shouldn't be the new standard moving forward. And we saw a lot of AAA developers chime in. That was the real thing about this article that drew my attention and a lot of other individuals. It was the fact that we saw a lot of industry figures from developers from Blizzard, Obsidian, Insomniac, and so on and so forth, all giving their opinions on this game. And I think that whether or not you think that this indie developer was wrong or right, this was taken a little bit out of proportion. Yes, a lot of AAA developers chimed in with their feelings on Baldur's Gate 3, and yes, it obviously jumped out to be something much bigger. And we even saw IGN publishing their own article on this situation, or I should say video, from Dustin LeGray, I think that's his name. I apologize if I said that wrong. But this video has 126,000 likes to only 1,000 dislikes, and a lot of people just completely agreeing with the sentiment shared in this video, which is somewhat along the lines of the coverage that I've given in recent weeks. And actually, if you check the article or the description, I'm actually cited as one of the people that they credited for broaching the topic beforehand. But yeah, like the comment section, this is the most based video IGN has ever uploaded. More stuff like this, the Act Man. And
I mean, usually IGN uploads shit, like, let's be real. The only thing that's keeping IGN afloat is the fact, well, that it's IGN and it has a lot of history, so people kind of trust it to a degree. But again, you know, when trash comes out, IGN is gonna favor the trash just because otherwise they will not get like early copy releases and all of that good stuff. So they're afraid. But you know, IGN did do good once in their lives, which is unexpectedly nice.
And it's pretty much a lot like this.
Also, I should probably do this.
Section.
Bam!
A lot of people saying this is the only good IGN take that they've ever had in the last decade or so. But
yep,
this is one clip or one part of it I'll show.
I implore AAA devs to look at these games that are being celebrated and look at your pipeline to see why the consumer is getting frustrated about the experience I outline in this video. And obviously try and make an improvement. Because telling me how hard it is when you're breaking profit and revenue records...
Bro, this is why, by the way, the AAA devs are actually so pissed, because someone of their own ilk dared to tell them that what they produce is garbage, that what they produce is not even 1/10 of the quality it should be. And, you know, it's one thing when the pleb gamers who understand obviously nothing, but are the ones who give you the money at the end of the day and kind of keep you afloat, but they don't matter. But some of their own, aka IGN, decided they're gonna actually say mean things to them. Oh, that's just unacceptable.
Isn't a super compelling argument from the customer's perspective. Is Baldur's Gate 3 an outlier? Yes, but I for one wish it could become the standard. And being told to shut up because I don't know game design doesn't feel super constructive. But hey,
no one. I'm a gamer. I don't know game design. I don't give a shit, okay? No one should give a shit. I don't need to be a game designer to play a game and say it's good or bad, okay? I play it. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. I don't need to be a game designer. I don't... that is not a requirement for me to rate your shitty AAA game.
I'm just some idiot on the internet who doesn't...
And the thing is, with this opinion, it's more centered at the publishers, because the low-end developers, we're not talking about them necessarily. I don't think that they don't even have any say in the decision making with these RPGs. And if we talk about all of the chaos that we've seen with the development of so many games the last couple of years, the common denominator is always the executives, the publishers, chasing trends, throwing microtransactions when it shouldn't be there, releasing games unfinished. They know the state of these games, and obviously there are a couple of examples that don't exactly align with that, but most of the time that is exactly what happened. Look at Red Dead Redemption. It just released a couple of days ago. $50 new conversion is what they called it. The reason why it's being released at that price point, it should have been like $30. It's because a publisher greed. That ultimately is what's happening. People have called out Take-Two CEO.
I mean, why not put it out at $50? People are gonna buy it anyway. And those who don't buy it at 50, guess what? Guess what? 3 months, and there's a discount. Now it's 30. Go buy it. They're gonna get the money from everyone. From the high end, to the mid end, to the low end. At some point, they're gonna get your money. That's why they start off high, by the way. By the way, that's literally a tactic.
Strauss Zelnick for his hypocritical comments in the past about his feelings on ports and remasters. But again, they wanted to make money, and they probably will because of the brand name. And that's the thing with a lot of these franchises, especially the ones we love. These publishers trace trends. Battlefield's a great example. They wanted their own little Overwatch Tom Clancy clone of sorts. They went away from the franchise DNA because they thought it'd be more profitable. Ended up backfiring big time in their face. Now, again, with this video specifically, we saw a lot of gamers, a lot of journalists, some applauding it. When gamers expect a game to be good after spending $70 on it. Saw another tweet.
True.
There's 5,000 likes. It's not really setting new expectations and more showing people that AAA games can be fun and successful without chasing trends over monetization or turning studios into dev gulags. Exactly. Another tweet. AAA developers...
I mean, everyone's constantly saying, oh, the poor devs. The poor devs. On one hand, I do agree with one thing. Most people... the vast majority, I should honestly say, who went to develop games probably didn't do it because they thought, oh, this is going to be a career choice that's going to make me a millionaire. No, they probably did it because they have some sort of passion. But sadly, passion is not enough on its own to actually make you good at your job. Most game devs are just actually shit at their job, most likely. It's probably true in like almost all places. Probably a couple of people who made Baldur's Gate 3 were also kind of shit at their job, to be honest. But they probably at least had dedication because they got to do something that they love. Because a lot of these devs that go work for Blizzard and whatnot, they probably have big aspirations. They want to change things for the better and whatnot. But then at some point they understand that, wait a minute, we can't actually change things for the better. A lot of things are way too out of hand. A lot of situations we don't actually know what we're doing. And, well, most of us are actually talentless hags that shouldn't even be paid minimum wage, so we actually slowly die off, and that should be a good thing. That's the reality of game devs.
When a game launches without needing a day one patch because of bugs and crashes. And again, when I speak about AAA developers, when I speak about Blizzard, when I talk about Insomniac, my comments never have been directed at the developers. It's just more so the publishers, the ones that are in charge of those studios, the ones making the decisions about how these games are delivered and such. We had another tweet from another popular streamer. Yeah, this is ridiculous. You simply cannot be making content in games this great. Set expectations too high. Devs better start making crappier content to keep things in check. Some studios are already doing that. Others can learn. Obviously, this is sarcastic. Now, Dustin did...
I mean, is it sarcastic, actually? Who knows at this point? Who knows?
Kind of go into damage control after this video because a lot of developers started to mock and to be outraged by it. We're going to get to those tweets in a second. Oof. But this is the follow-up tweet he had on this situation. I'm working on a follow-up to the Baldur's Gate 3 piece. A lot of great points have been made about what I could have done better. It's also clear that I touched on something that has been bubbling up for customers for a long time, and I want to do a better job exploring it in a way that's fair to developers. I'll take the presentation lesson to heart. I will be...
Why would you ever choose to be fair to developers? They did everything they wanted to do. Why give them any leeway?
Contacting experts privately, but completely understand if the response is stuff it for now. And he got a lot of that stuff it from developers in response to the video and the title of it saying that they're panicking. To be clear, the piece was meant to express my own frustration with the current state of AAA gaming, and I didn't intend to offend the hardworking developers out there or rile up fans against them. Now, once again, I want to reiterate this original tweet.
What hardworking developers? Please, point me to these magical, hardworking developers. I don't believe they exist. Go watch Diablo 4's, dev talks. Go look at those devs. They fucking don't play their own game. They don't even know what they're honestly doing most of the time. They don't even know what game they're working on most of the time, probably even. It's an absolute bonanza. It's like a banana republic, but it somehow is not a republic. It's just every game developer is some kind of banana republic of its own at this point. Give me a break. These developers don't deserve shit. there's no such thing as hardworking developers.
Twitter thread which started all of this controversy originated from an indie developer, and it blew up out of proportions, in which we saw lots of AAA developers remarking on it. And there was disagreement with this sentiment that this game shouldn't be raising a standard. We saw one developer, this is something a lot of people have been talking about, I talked about in my original video from like a month ago, in which a developer that used to work at Riot Games saying they disagreed with it. We saw other developers disagreeing. So it's not like this is one consensus that all AAA developers believe that standards shouldn't be raised. We even saw the founder of Larian responding saying that standards are meant to be broken. There is no standard. So regardless, I wanted to bring that up because we had this specific article coming from a former journalist, former game developer. I'm not sure what he does necessarily right now, but yelling is not journalism. That was his response to the video. We saw lots of outrage to IGN's video. We're going to go over more tweets in a second, but this is something that's been shared by a lot of developers, this specific article. I decided to comment on this as a former journalist myself after a few people told me that the video raises a good point. I think it does. I will first say that no point is raised in this video. The video instead asks a rhetorical question about what has been posted ad nauseum since the advent of DLC. Why can't AAA games come out with perfect polish from day one? And I think that really simplifies IGN, what they were saying, what gamers have been criticizing about this AAA games industry the last couple of years. Because it isn't just about polish. It's all over monetization, the unfinished state of games, and there's just so many controversial things that games have done. The NFTs, the...
One day gamers will learn that the battle pass, the monetization, has literally nothing to do with game devs. No game dev is wasting time thinking about, oh, how the battle pass progression is gonna work, I wonder. No, that's not how it works. Well, someone needs to code it. Yes, that part is true, but that's not how it works.
Blockchain nonsense. We go publisher to publisher. Each of them have some sort of controversial aspect that they've been exposed for the last couple of years. Now, instead of talking to people and attempting to answer that question, IGN's Destin Legary chooses to make a reaction video multiple times admitting he doesn't know anything about the subject but is simply angry. This is not what journalism should be. Using angry gamer language when no research has been done, as admitted by the videographer, along with naming a bunch of game devs and showing their tweets. Again, this originated from an article from a journalist, Game World Observer, so it's not like he went out of his way to put these developers on blast. And again, public website anyway. Invites angry fans to go harass them, which is of course what is happening. I have not seen any proof of that myself, but I've said this numerous times again. There's no reason to go after these developers for their opinions. That's just ludicrous, stupid. They don't even have a say in most of the decision making with what games are going to be and when they're going to release. This reminds devs of 2014, you know what he's mentioning, GG. And naturally, we do not like it. In the abstract, here's a big part of it. Games release in imperfect states because devs either run out of money or the shareholders of their parent company mandate that a game must come out in a certain window, which devs have no control over. I've said that myself.
I mean, the solution to that is pretty simple. Work better. Where did we hear this? Some kind of ex-dev actually talked about it. Oh, crunch is so bad. Crunch is so bad. Everyone always complains, oh, you're overworking the devs. Crunch is so bad. Why are you doing this to them? And some kind of ex-game dev came out and literally just said, yeah, crunch pretty much only happens because game devs waste all the time at the beginning doing nothing, and then they need to rush because they spend most of their time doing nothing. There's no reason for crunch if you're not an idiot who just wastes, time on whatever. And I believe that. I fully believe that. Again, I have seen how things happen in high levels in big companies. Most basic workers are abysmal. They're bad at almost everything they do. They're incompetent. And, well, if game devs aren't literally beaten with a stick so they actually do their job, they're probably not going to honestly do their job. As brutal as that sounds, that's probably true. So, I don't believe in cutting developers any slack. Because chances are, yeah, there's probably a couple of developers that actually, worked hard and stuff. But most developers probably don't work hard at all. They just complain that they're working hard, but they don't really do a lot, probably.
And he talks about the individual games that have been praised lately. Baldur's Gate 3, which was launched in a polished state, actually launched in early access. Again, I think that Baldur's Gate 3 has proven that there are other ways games can release. Tears of the Kingdom.
Also, that's actually a lie. Baldur's Gate 3 did not launch without bugs or anything. It's actually a pretty buggy game, in all things considered. But you do let that slide for a game that has this many options of what you can honestly do. You know, if your game is extremely vast in scope and what can be done in it, yeah, bugs are kind of expected. But, you know, they fixed the game-breaking bugs. They fixed all of that pretty fastly. Unlike other companies that don't fix these things. I mean, look at Redfall. Look at Fallout 76. Disasters.
Why was this so polished? Because Nintendo has literal billions of dollars in cash reserves. And you know what lots of publishers have? Billions of dollars in cash reserves.
Nintendo also is actually not a Western developer that actually, you know, has standards to a certain degree. So there you kind of also have that, honestly.
Where their past success has led them to be given a blank check and a ready when it's ready attitude. Again, that's something that we could uphold for a lot of this industry, but these publishers do not care. The point is to think that of Baldur's Gate 3 as an immaculate polished release out of the gate is incorrect, and if you held other games to that standard, it would not make sense. After all, Baldur's Gate 3 took 3 years from early access launch at $60 to where it releases in a polished state, but simply other games cannot be held to that standard because that standard is illusory. There was an opportunity with a video like this to give players context for why games release the way they do, but instead it was designed to incite anger directed at a few devs. No, it wasn't. It was incited to show that consumers, gamers, are very upset with the state of games, especially all of the game releases we've had this year. So many of them have launched unfinished. They've been buggy. They've been a mess, and it's only getting worse with time. And he says to incite anger directed at a few devs, that was certainly accomplished as this indie developer is getting harassed relentlessly. Again, if that is happening, I have not seen it myself, but that is horrible. I don't know why anybody's directing at it.
There was this is a story about one stupid indie developer that said, "Oh, we're a 3-person studio. We can't make Baldur's Gate 3 level of things." First of all, you're not even in the same genre as them. Second of all, yeah, you're a 3-person studio indie development company with literally no lights on in the office because you live in the basement. No one's asking you to be Baldur's level. Everyone's pissed about AAA not even being 50% of Larian Studios quality, while having literally, on average, how many people did it take to make Diablo 4? I forgot. 8k people or something? That's literally 20 times the amount of people that worked on Baldur's Gate. And they even worked on it for a year more than Baldur's Gate. But of course people are going to be pissed at AAA. They have everything more, yet they do everything less.
At it because the only thing he really did was start a conversation, and we saw a lot of developers go off, and that's where, well, it ignited this conversation that we're having now, something that maybe we should have had before. But is that really the kind of anger you want? Is that the tactic you want to take in a post-GG world? Anyway, that perspective was shared by a lot of developers. A lot of them
post-GG world. Remember Gamergate? Ooh, the big scary thing. Yeah, it's bullshit.
Tweeting out this article. We even saw some of them go after myself and some other YouTubers, and it was actually funny because if you look at IGN's original thread, they mentioned another YouTuber, Endymion TV. I apologize if I said that wrong. And they also mentioned Young Yes says he never talked about this. And then the specific YouTuber Endymion wasn't mentioned anymore, I guess because he has controversial content. I don't know why IGN did that. It's ridiculous. You obviously watched his content. You credit him. Why would you take that out? It makes no sense to me. Ridiculous. But anyway, he said, it's true. I just didn't want to wade through that part. I guess he didn't want to mention other YouTubers that covered it. Well, maybe you should mention the article that really ignited all of this to begin with, but I guess not. We did see, again, other developers. We had one from CDPR saying, I haven't personally commented on panicking devs narrative because I don't like to give exposition to media and influencers who spin toxic narrative and craft illusion that devs are lazy and scam.
Of course, bruh. Of course CDPR is gonna be, no, developers good, Yeah. CDPR, guess what they did? Cyberpunk 2070 error message T-pose can't play game, it's garbage.
game players. And again, I don't think that was the narrative that's happening here. A disconnect between gamers and developers right now. I think a lot of gamers' frustration is at the companies, not the specific developers on the low ground who are just trying to make the best game possible, but it's the decision makers. And for what it's worth, the last time I saw this lazy narrative, it actually came from a developer. This is a big story at the time, but a Bungie developer called Diablo 4 scaling lazy. And Blizzard's own boss, Mike Ybarra, responded to it saying lazy, huh? Another developer commenting on it.
I mean, 100. Again, we literally have talks with devs on that subject. You know there's not a single shred of quality in Blizzard at this point. You know that there is not a single person who actually works in that company who has a even semi-functional brain left.
The original IGN piece saying only the most willfully illiterate and bad faith readers could see the dev conversations about Baldur's Gate 3 and turn that into devs don't like how good this game is because they need to make good games.
Well, actually, that's exactly what they kind of said. This is, like, not even questionable.
Some other developers took it that way, just saying. We also saw this take, and I actually think this is a very good one. This is coming from the creative director at Arcane. I think he worked on Deathloop recently. I'd say some games, RDR2, Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, Nier Automata, do make you feel like they are in another league entirely, as you can't fit them in your mind and break them down as creations projects immediately. This wow effect makes us feel just as mind blown and starstruck as when we were just players, not part of the industry. It's a wonderful feeling, yes, but after years of making games, it's challenging and can lead to questioning yourself as a significant trigger for imposter syndrome. You wonder how they made it. You don't immediately see the strings as you usually do, but time will help you digest this creation. Magician tricks and unfathomable scope wear off, and what is left is creative choices, technical expertise, and hard work, which we all understand. And that's a great take. And
I mean, the guy should probably be a poet instead of actually being a game dev. Not gonna lie, who gives a shit? Wow.
Like I said, some developers have taken this to have a conversation about how we can make games better, how we can improve, and there has been some progress in that regard. We also saw another developer saying, what is the benefit of this narrative? They did an awesome job, and I will be playing their game to get inspired as a dev, and I find their success an overall benefit to the industry. Why should we feel threatened by somebody's win? This kind of thinking is toxic. And
I mean, you can say that, but in reality, half of you devs did the exact opposite thing. You got all defensive about it, which is a human response, but you kind of need to, stop and maybe think for a moment what's going to happen after you break down and cry like a little girl about, someone doing a better job than you while you're the cool AAA dev who literally cannot do anything properly. Yeah, this was all expected. Anyway, I honestly think this is pretty much it. We're just gonna read stupid comments. And I think we have heard enough stupid comments. Anyway, Legacy Kill HD, great video, great stuff. Link down in the comments, you know the drill. Anyway, this was Quizzer Citizen. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.